everybody, you're watching Zufo. Please hit the like button and subscribe button and bell icon right next to it. In today's video, we are going to start with the new concept, that is pollination and pollinating agents. So in the last video, we have studied about the microsporogensis and megasporogensis. Let's go ahead with the pollination. As we all know that pollination is nothing but the transfer of a pollen grain from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the flower. So, transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the flower is known as the pollination. As we all know that it is very simple definition. So, in pollination we can see two types of a pollination, that is self-pollination and one more cross-pollination. In self-pollination we can see two types furtherly, that is autogamy and geitonogamy. In cross-pollination we can see allogamy or xenogamy. So let us go with the autogamy. What is this autogamy? In this case, the pollination occurs where the anthers or the pollen grains of the anther of that pollen grains gets transferred to the stigma of the same flower, where in a single flower itself, the pollen grain of the anther gets transferred to the stigma of the flower. This is the self-pollination, where only in a single flower this pollination occurs. This is autogamy. And coming to geitonogamy, where the geitonogamy, here the transfer of pollen grain of the anther from the anther to the stigma of the flower occurs with the different flower but the same plant. This pollination occurs in the same plant of the different flower, where the transfer of pollen grain from the anther of the flower gets transferred to the another flower of the stigma. And next, in these two cases only self-pollination occurs. Coming to the cross-pollination, that is allogamy. In this case, the transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the flower occurs in between the same species but different plants. For example, here is one plant and here is one plant. So those two plants will be having a bit of distance between them. And next one is xenogamy. This is totally different, where the transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the flower, that may be of different plant and different species even, so that the new species or new variation can occur. So these are the types of the pollination. And coming to the next level, that is pollinator or pollinating agents. How come this pollination occurs? As we all know that pollinating agents, that is, they are biotic and abiotic factors. In biotic, we can see the insects, birds and some animals. In abiotic, you can see wind, water. So let's go on with the abiotic factors. First one, that is wind. Means the pollination occurs with the help of wind. This is called as the anemophily. Please remember these terms. The pollination which occurs by the or with the help of wind is called as the anemophily. So in this, the wind helps in the transfer of the pollen grain from anther to the stigma of the flower. In this, the flowers are odorless and they will be nectarless. And coming to the pollen grain, they will be light, small, wingy and very dusty. And stigma, here the stigma will be feathery, branched and it will be having hair. For example, you can take maize plant. In maize plant, it will be having a hairy-like structures, that stigma. Why? Because in order to take those pollen grains and to improve or in order to continue the further process. This is how the wind pollination or anemophily occurs. And one more, the pollination occurs through or with the help of water. It is called as the hydrophily. We can call it as the pollination occurring with the help of water is called as the hydrophily or water pollination. Here water plays as a medium. How? Because before that, let me tell you, in this hydrophily we can see two types, that is epihydrophily, one more is hypohydrophily. In epihydrophily, the word itself says that epi means upper, means this pollination occurs on the surface of the water, so it is called as the epihydrophily. For example, seagrasses, in which the flower or this flower will be like stigma, flower will be on the surface of the water, but pollen grains will produce inside the water. By the water current, those pollen grains comes and sit on the stigma of the flower, where flowers will be on the surface. This is how the epihydrophily takes place. And the next one is hypohydrophily, which is opposite to the epihydrophily, because this pollination occurs inside the water. Means pollen grains will be inside the water, and even the stigma will be inside the water. This pollination occurs inside the water. This is how the pollination occurs by the abiotic factors. And coming to biotic factors, if the pollination occurs with the help of insects, we call it as entomophily. We use the word entomophily. Animals like insects like bees, moths, etc. Here the stigma or the pollen grains will be, before that the flowers will be having a nectar and they will be bright in color. Here the pollen grains will be sticky and they will be having a pollen kit with the yellow substances, so that the insects will grasp the nectar from it. And the stigma will be, here in this case stigma will be long, in the sense it will be having the unwettable substance or unwettable substance. They won't get wet easily. We all know that honeybees are the more or commonly known example in which the pollination occurs by the insects. In this case, even the moth in yucca plant, or in you can call it as yucca plant. Here the one special case what we have to see is here that the flower, yucca plant flower, acts as a nest for the moth, while the moth helps that flower or the plant by occurring the pollination by helping the pollination process, where they will be having a mutual understanding, so that yucca plant provides nest for that moth to lay its eggs. In the same way, that moth or the insect, it helps in the pollination process. And one more plant, that is a tallest flower, which we know that Astrophylophus, which is 6 feet in height. Even in this case, it will be having a mutual understanding where the insects lay their eggs and help in the pollination process. In the same way, that plant or the flower gives the nest to lay the eggs. This is about we can call it as an entomophily. In some cases, pollination occurs with the help of the birds. We call it as ornithophily. Ornithophily means the pollination occurs by the help of the birds. And one more is chiroptily. Chiroptily. Here the pollination occurs with the help of the bat, and even some mammals like garden lizard and chameleon, many other animals which help in the pollination process. This is how the pollination process occurs, and these are the biotic and abiotic agents which help in the pollinating process. And as I forgot that in a flower we can see two types of a flower, that is chasmogamous flower and cleistogamy flowers. With chasmogamous flowers they will be opened in condition, they will be exposed, the flower will be broad, so that the cross pollination occurs and helps in the gene variation and new species occurs. While coming to the cleistogamous flower, they will be under, means they will be below they will be in a open or closed, they won't be opened, and their self pollination occurs because stigma and the pollen grain will be in the inside because it will be closed enough. So here self pollination occurs. These both flowers occurs in a single plant, that is oxalis and camelina. This is about the pollination and some of the agents about it. Please do remember this as they are very important. And in the next video, let me come up with the next concepts. Till then, have a good day. And please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe my channel. Thank you. Have a good day.